Hello, everyone. Hi, thank you for joining me today. I had the opportunity today to be part of a live panel where we were talking about chronic fatigue and specifically working with Healing Touch, which is a form of energy medicine that I often use and that is extremely beneficial for chronic fatigue. But it had me thinking that, I need to share some of that information out with my followers because it's really good information and I think it would help a lot of people. So, in a gist, I'll just kind of go down the list and the things that we talked about and what to do about them. But it's really an interesting time in our lives because there's so much overwhelm going on. And I have a lot of clients with chronic fatigue. And in fact, I have the experience myself of having to deal with chronic fatigue. So this was kind of close to me. And I really have a lot of good tools that I wanted to share. And that's really the gist of me getting online today to kind of give you an update of what I learned and what I have learned over the years, and what are some ways that you can also help yourselves. And if you need any more information, as always, please feel free to reach out and chat with me and see how I can help. So, one of the things that I do work with closely is trauma. And I think what a lot of people do not really recognize is that trauma does not have to be something huge. Trauma is how we react to something and how our body reacts to something. So it can be anything from falling off your bike when you were little and nobody was there to dust off your knee, or it could be a major accident, a car accident. It could be, loss of a family member or a loved one. It could mean a whole slew of things, but trauma, in essence, is something that restricts the flow of the energy in our body. And what I mean by that is that in during traumatic events, it's like our energy gets locked up, part of our energy. And that part of our energy is something that is not accessible down the road for us. And as we, go through life and, we have our families, we get older, we experience life in different ways, but we recognize that we no longer had the energy that we had when we were younger. And very often that is due because a lot of experiences in life have caused us to block part of the energy that is naturally coming up through our body, and we no longer have that accessible to do our daily tasks. When there is a lot of trauma or really difficult and deep trauma, especially during childhood, I have noticed with the clients that I work with and with myself actually that, chronic fatigue sets in. And that emotional reaction that happened in my past or in your past showed up and is still showing up as times where I feel absolutely exhausted and I feel like I don't have the energy to get anything done during the day. I feel like I want to just sit on the couch and maybe, read a book or watch TV, but I know that if I do that, it's not going to serve me. Yes, there are moments where I do need to take, some rest. But if I don't do anything throughout the day, then that's only going to get worse and worse. So emotional trauma shows up in our lives, and and I took some notes here because I didn't want to leave anything out, but some of the ways that it shows up is, one, we have an autoimmune disease, and often those go in pairs. So maybe you have you're dealing with MS, or you have Hashimoto's or other thyroid issues. You also might be sensitive to gluten and things like that, right? So that's one thing. Mental health challenges. You get overwhelmed. You have anxiety attacks. There's panic that sets in, or you just don't have the capacity to deal with a lot of people, large events, or be around a lot of people for extended amounts of time. And that could be as simple as, needing to go to the grocery store, or spending time with your friends, or, being around many family members or loud environments. The other thing is gut issues, digestion. That very, very often shows up after any kind of traumatic event. We have trouble digesting the food, just like we have trouble digesting the event that happened. Sometimes it takes time for this to show up. So even if a traumatic event has actually occurred in the past and in our childhood, it tends to show up down the road. Eventually, it will show up, and it shows up as, either issues with digestion or a lot of gut problems or being bloated, having a lot of, not really eating a lot, but still feeling bloated throughout the day. So there is a lot of information. I could go into gut issues in such detail here, but essentially, emotions tend to get trapped in our sacral area, which is where the gut is. They often get trapped in what is called the mucoid plaque, which is a plaque that tends to line the gut. And because they get trapped there, they might be there present for many, many years before they even get activated. But if you're having cramps, if you're having cysts, anything like that, any emotional and energetic block will eventually tend to manifest in our physical body. So that's one of them. And then chronic fatigue is because, we get so tired of carrying not only that emotional charge that happened in the past, but also we do not understand that because we are later on in life and we have had many of those instances where our energy was blocked, that all of that energy that is not accessible now to us feels like a heaviness in our body. We feel like we're dragging. We feel like we don't have the energy to deal with things, right? So clearing, going back to the past and clearing those is very beneficial in reclaiming that energy that is originally ours and in seeing life with a new vigor once again. And so, also another thing that tends to show up is migraines. Migraines are, I look at migraines as an event where we do not feel good enough about ourselves. There's something that is nagging. And that usually, again, comes or stems from past situations where we feel like we didn't do well. I wasn't, a good enough daughter, or I didn't, I don't have the knowledge that I should have, and I didn't follow through maybe with something that I wanted to follow through. And they really are things that we're not able to process as children. So we take on those energies, but they're not necessarily true. I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not, you name it. We have all of these restrictions that we put upon ourselves. And as children and as even small babies, we don't have the opportunity to express how we feel. So what we tend to do is go within, shut down, carry that and freeze that moment in time so that we can still go on with day-to-day life, but we're not 100%, right? Paresthesia is another one, is having sensations, weird sensations in our body where the energy is trapped, often on our skin, feeling pains and aches that are not necessarily present in a very physical way, but they are definitely present in our sensations. So the one of the ways that, or one of the reasons why those things show up is because as they pile up in our energetic field, they become too much for the body to hold. And when we have a lot of trauma from the past, we're actually not very good at grounding. And what I mean by grounding is we don't have this capacity to allow energy, thoughts, emotions to flow through us. Instead, they kind of pile up. It's like an overflowing glass of water. They pile up and they pile up and they pile up, and there's more and more and more. And at some point, the body says, you know what? I can't hold that any longer. So it begins to manifest as dis-ease in the body, showing up as all of those different things that we just talked about. The essence and the understanding of being able to ground is a wonderful practice of forming a connection with the earth and discharging the things that have been piling up for years. So grounding can look as simple as, I'm walking barefoot on the grass, or I am sitting against the tree trunk and reading a book, or, I go to take a shower and I feel the water cleansing through me as it passes, around my body, and it takes with it all of the emotional overwhelm that I have. There's many different ways to ground, and on my YouTube channel, I have many different exercises like that. But we can do things like that in sessions together. It is extremely beneficial. It really feels like finally I can exhale. So that is one of the things that we can do. And what grounding does is it restores flow in the body. Everything within us should be in flow, just like the blood flows through our body, right? If we were to have a clot somewhere within our veins, there'd be a problem there, some kind of disease, because the body can't deal with that. It's no different with energetic flow, with emotional flow. Everything in the body has to flow in order for us to release the overwhelm and feel good. So that grounding is not only a form of restoring the flow, but it's also a form of finding the feeling of security and safety again. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but everything, everybody has their own rhythm and everybody has their own way of coming back from traumatic situations. So we work differently depending on what it is that, your life looks like in the past and what it is that you're dealing with and how that manifests in your physical reality, and what sort of diseases you might be dealing with and how chronic fatigue might be setting into your body. But in essence, the body is always trying to communicate. It will raise its little hand and say, "Hey, I need help here. Can you please pay attention?" When we're overwhelmed and there's so much going on, we separate ourselves from the body. We disconnect because it is too much, right? And so chronic fatigue sets in, and we seem to have no possible way to regain our energy. Every day becomes a burden. Everything is really difficult. We feel like all we can do is just rest. And the more we rest, the more we need to rest. Somewhere in there, we need to break that cycle and find ways of healing. So, grounding is one of those ways. The other thing that we do, which is really a very easy technique to engage in, is called Scudder in the energy medicine world. But it's activating and sort of bringing the nervous system back to the normal state of being, toning the nervous system, right? So the skin is a wonderful place to work with because under the skin we have a lot of nerve endings, right? So when we brush our skin and we brush our arm and we kind of swoop it through, and we do this all the way through, and we do it across the body gently, we're awakening that nervous system, right? We're bringing it back. We're bringing our attention back to our body, and we can do that all the way down and brush our thighs and brush our legs and just slowly coming back to the body and noticing the body. So this Scudder technique is a wonderful way to start, reawakening and bringing the energy back in the body. So while we're doing trauma work and trauma therapy, we're also helping the body restore its natural ability to self heal. But it can't do it while it's in that place of trauma, right? So we need to be gentle with it. Another thing that we do is the triple warmer flush. Triple warmer is a meridian that tends to get activated when we're in fight, flight, or freeze. And when we're under a lot of stress and chronic stress and everyday stress, that meridian, that energy channel gets stuck in that freeze mode, right? And what it does is it takes its energy from the spleen, and the spleen is one of the areas of the body that provides us with energy. So when our spleen is constantly drained, again, we feel tired. We wake up in the morning, and even though we might have had 8 hours of sleep, we feel exhausted. So the triple warmer flush is another way to um, to break the cycle, right? To get that meridian back into flowing again, and to start building up energy in our body and in our spleen so that we have some reserves. And here's what the triple warmer looks like. We take a couple of the fingers of the opposite hand and we go to the side of our eyebrow, and we very lightly trace over the ear and down our neck, and all the way down an arm and through the elbow and all the way down to the ring finger and out. And you're going to do this 3 times, and you're going to do it on each side, left and right. You might feel some tingling. You might feel even some numbness sometimes where there's a lot of stuff stuck. But when you're done with it, it's almost like you're taking a deep breath and a good exhale, and the body's like, oh, okay, I'm back online, right? So that's the triple warmer flush. Another thing that we can engage in is mindfulness. Listen to your body. The more you begin to come back, the more you listen, the more the body will give you the cues of what it needs. We have become so numb to the existence of this temple that guides us through life every single day. But when we begin to listen, we become sensitive to even the subtle nudges that happen every day, right? And so sometimes your body might give you a little pain in the hip, or sometimes it might, give you a little tickle in the spleen, or sometimes, you'll notice that headache, and you can ask when that headache sets in, it's like, okay, what is that headache about? What is my body trying to tell me right now? Why am I feeling so exhausted? Why is my energy so low? When we're quiet enough to listen to the body's cues, we have the opportunity to begin making changes, right? And of course, rest. Rest during the day, if you need a couple of breaks here and there, is very good. I know for us women, what we often do is we have the tendency not only to multitask, but to also go, 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 go. Never stop. Because when we don't stop, we don't have the moment to notice that we're really, really tired. But then comes the end of the day and we collapse on the bed and we go to sleep and we wake up exhausted again in the morning and do it all over again. That drains our system more and more each day because there isn't a moment to restore. So if you feel the need to take even a 10-minute nap, please go ahead and do that. Okay, honor your body and listen to what it's trying to tell you. And now another thing is, obviously, as I've talked a little bit about it, is to make peace with the past, to really address the trauma. And yeah, some of you will say, I don't have any trauma in my past. And I'll tell you one thing, just one thing, not even considering any childhood trauma. If you have been through COVID, you've been through trauma. Everybody reacted differently to that shutdown of the world, but everybody's nervous system did get, affected in one way or another. So I would invite you to rethink and look back to your past and see how many situations there might have been where they weren't optimal for your well-being, and what you could do to actually address those. And from my life, I had some training in trauma, and I thought it was very interesting because one of the exercises was to make a list of, take 10 minutes and make a list of, 4 or 5 things that you think were traumatic in your life. And once I started writing, I recognized how many different situations there were in my past where I was affected in one way or another. And I recognized that, I wasn't playing with a full deck. I thought, wow, I never thought about all of these. But some of my past experiences have a lot to do with situations in life where I was triggered in fight or flight, and I was in a fire that was really close to my home, and then I was in a typhoon where our boat almost capsized, and I was in a really large earthquake where the ceiling fell down. I mean, I had all these experiences, and I never really thought about him because I just kind of brushed them off and said, okay, well, no big deal. Thank goodness we're still here. Everything is okay, and kept going. But when I started going back and clearing those events one by one, I felt the energy coming back into my body. I felt restored. I felt like I had, so much more energy during the day, and I was able to sleep better even at night. And I thought, wow, this is phenomenal. I didn't think any of that stuff affected me before. But as I started clearing it and as I started bringing back all of this energy and kind of reclaiming myself, I felt so good. And this is what I'm asking you to do, is to simply go back and notice. Maybe make a list of the things that you remember. And what happened with me actually was that as I had a running list, and I had it on the side of my desk and one on the side of my nightstand. And every time I would remember something, I would write it down. I was like, oh my gosh, this is another one of those that I didn't realize was actually pretty traumatic in my life. And that might be something that's holding quite a bit of energy as well. So take a moment and maybe, journal what you can remember right now. If it helps you to keep a running list like I did, I would invite you to do that as well. But if there's anything that I can help you with, please do reach out, because there is such an incredible correlation between trauma in our past and the amazing livelihood that you could reclaim in your life today once you start, you know, um, bringing peace into your present moment and into your life right now. Once you start understanding, acknowledging past traumatic events, and making peace with those and bringing harmony back into your life. That is so very important. And the more harmonious you are within your present moment, the more harmonious you are with your relationships, within your family environment, with your friends, and even at work. So I would just, extend that invitation if you feel called to, reach out to me and see if there's anything I can help you with. Please do so. If you want to look at the rest of my YouTube channel and engage in some of the little wellness moment exercises that I have, those are available for you as well. And as always, do feel free to go to my website at corinacromer.com and peruse it and see what, maybe go to my blog and see what information might be there for you that might be helpful as well. So I look forward to hearing from you and chatting with you and sharing my knowledge and seeing how I can be of service to you in feeling your most exuberant self. And for now, I just bid you a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to getting to speak with you. Have a good one.